First of all, Joanne, and the first families of Learn to Cope, I watched that video and my first thought was, never screw with mom. Never, ever screw with mom. Which is a lesson I try to pay attention to every day. You know, I have a hard time with you guys because this is so personal. And when I ran for governor, I didn't run to work on this. It just kind of found me. Didn't matter where I was or what audience I was talking to or what venue I was in. There was eventually, afterwards, some group, always afterwards, never during the main part of the conversation, the Q&A, a bunch of people would hang around and they'd come up and they'd start talking to me about their story. And the reason they did it was because I was in healthcare and they figured I might know something that would be helpful. And you know, after a while, I came home one day and I said to Lauren, you know, I'm hearing these stories. They're everywhere. And I don't understand why there's not more visibility around all this stuff. And she said that when she was out talking to people, she was hearing the same thing. So I did what a healthcare person does. I went and spent some time with some folks I knew in the ER business, and I went and visited some EMTs, and I said, look, maybe I'm just listening for it, but it sure feels to me like this thing is everywhere. And they basically said, yeah, it is. And I said, well, Jesus, you know, I'm running for governor. You know me. You've known me forever. You have my phone number. Why don't you call me? And almost to a person, they said, look, I'm just trying to keep my head above water, and frankly, I just don't really think anybody cares that much about this. And then I thought a little bit about one of our kids. He was a football player. Big and smart, not big and dumb. Got injured. Played through the injury till the season was over and then had major surgery. And I don't know. I remember saying one time, I thought he must have had 50 or 100 OxyContin, and Lauren said it was more like 500 over the course of his recovery. And to this day, I feel like we dodged like the biggest bullet of all. Because for whatever reason with him, and I don't even know who to thank, but for whatever reason with him, it didn't stick. And by then, we'd already figured out this was everywhere, in every community. And what it really needed more than anything was a voice and visibility. And then I went to a couple of Learn to Cope meetings and realized just how hard it was for people who were dealing with this. It was the first meeting I went to was in Cambridge. Anybody here from Cambridge? Learn to... One. Jeez. Oh. No, I meant the Learn to Cope program. Oh, I got a table over there. All right. Sorry, Madam Secretary. And so people are walking around and telling a little bit, or working around the room, people are telling their story, and one guy goes, you know, I'm from Cambridge, but this isn't my first Learn to Cope meeting, but it's the first one I've been to in Cambridge because I went to Salem the first time because I was afraid I'd run into people I knew if I went to the one in Cambridge. And I went to the one in Salem, and there were 3 families there from Cambridge that I knew. Even then, people were, among their peers, People were still worried about going out there. And if we did anything over the last several years, I hope we made it okay to talk about the disease, to talk about addiction, and to not feel shame, and to because there's no shame in trying to save your family member. There's none. And my other Learn to Cope story is, I actually do need some more of these because I wear them. I have a bunch at home, and I run into a lot of people who they still start to tell me their stories, and I take the bracelet off and I give it to them and I say, the website's here, and we help support them through the Commonwealth, and there's Learn to Cope meetings everywhere, and you should go to one. It will help. And I had something that's never happened to me before when I was in New Bedford. This is my last one, by the way. I really do need some more. I was in New Bedford a couple of weeks ago, and this woman chased me out of an event I was at. And usually that means I've done something wrong. But this time she ran up to me and she handed me a bracelet. And she said, you gave this to me 2 years ago when I saw you in an event down here. And she said, you told me about Learn to Cope, and I started going to the meetings, and my son's been in recovery for over a year, and I just want to give this back to you because I don't think I need it anymore, and I just want to say thanks and hope that somebody else can have the same experience with it that I had. And, you know, that in some respects encompasses everything that you are about, because you give people hope and support and grit and determination and the ability to get back up over and over and over again as many times as it takes. And that is a glorious thing that you do for your friends and for your peers and for those families who are fighting this horrible, horrible disease. And you should all be incredibly proud of what you bring to this. I'm going to get the hook in a minute here. So the last thing I'm going to say is how much we appreciate, as an administration, Secretary Sutters, myself, Lieutenant Governor Polito, our whole team, the partnership we have with the Attorney General's office on the suits against the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma. I'm going to make one simple point on this, which is they got sued by the federal government and they settled in 2007 for many hundreds of millions of dollars. No fault acknowledged. And then they went out and they did it again and again and again, and perpetuated and threw gasoline on the fire that they'd already created. Now, it's one thing to get sued once and settle, but it takes a special level of deceit and greed to settle, agree to play the game straight, recognizing and understanding everything that everybody knew by 2007, and do it all over again. And we are with you 1,000% of the way, Attorney General.